I'll call the meeting to order at 4:34. We can stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Do we have any comments on agenda items?
Well, I believe we need to
do roll call first.
Sorry, roll call, yes.
Well, the statement, do we need to read the,
Do I have the statement?
let's see. Usually Rhonda emails it. However, I can forward it to you now.
Can you guys see me? Because my thing is acting up. Let me see.
I can see you.
I see you.
Yeah, it's just saying your meeting should start in a few seconds, but I'm not seeing you guys. As long as you can see me, I guess.
Huh.
All right.
I have one from the last meeting. Oops, here's what I'm going to do.
And Kelly just popped in.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Got it up.
Oh, okay.
I'm emailing that to you now. So, but this one we can, oh yeah, looks like it's all set.
Okay, I have it if you guys are ready. It says, let me see. All right, as chair of the Seabrook School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe, listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in the accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the Seabrook School Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 646-876-9923 and webinar ID 921-8150-4829, or by clicking on the following website address listed on the agenda. Providing public notice of the necessary information for assessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of SAU 21 office, www.sau21.org. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with an access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-926-8992, extension 114, or email dtuite@sau21.org. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start a meeting by a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anybody in the room with you during this meeting. which is required under the right to know law. We will now take a roll call vote.
Forrest Carter,
Here.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Here with family.
Jessica Brown,
Here with family in and out.
Kelly Huber. Up, you're on mute.
Here with family in and out.
Thank you. Christina Kaiser,
Here with family in and out.
roll call taken.
Okay. Let me see. Any public comments on the agenda items? I assume that somebody is keeping track of attendees, correct?
That's correct. And if there's an attendee who has a comment, just use the feature to raise your hand and we would bring you into the meeting.
Okay.
I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Any public comments? All right, I'm looking for approval of the minutes at this time. I'll make that motion to.
I'll second that motion.
All
Forrest
those-
Carter.
ahead.
Go ahead. Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
and Christina Kaiser.
Yes.
Vote taken.
Okay, let me see. I know that Kelly has to maybe leave early. She had a death in her family that she has a wake for. So I just wanted to give her the courtesy if there was anything in particular that she needed moved up maybe so that she can participate in prior to leaving us, if that's okay.
Absolutely, happy to.
Thank
Kelly,
you,
is
Jess.
there anything that you, okay, go ahead.
So I wanted to have the bus monitor put on the agenda. Apparently, the recreation center has opened up its doors to more children able to go in after school program, and with the middle school and the elementary school both in. I was thinking that it would probably be a good idea to maybe put the bus monitor back into place for the same reason that we had put her into place for the original time. I think that there may be a need for a bus monitor going to the recreation center, from my understanding and from what I've been told. So I don't know how we can, if we can vote, is it something we need to vote on, or if it needs to be approved by the principal, I'm not sure, but I wanted to bring that up.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this is a position that we just hadn't filled this year, and it is on the budget for next year as well. So if we're hearing that there's a need on the bus due to increased ridership to the rec, that's certainly something that we could look into reinstating at any time. Erin, have you gotten feedback regarding the need to reinstate that position at this time?
No, and it is a filled position. We didn't utilize the bus monitor this year, just given the situation. There is no rec, there's no bus going to the rec from the middle school. It's only the elementary school. And at this point, the buses are capped at 24 kids. So we really didn't feel like there was a need. There's only 24 kids on the bus, and it's a pretty short ride. When the middle school and elementary are riding together, it's quite a full bus, and it requires a lot of kind of keeping track of who's riding, but we hadn't had a need for it. I haven't gotten any feedback that bus has been a problem. But again, there can't be more than 24 kids on it. I don't even think there's that many going on the days that they have rec programming. So if that's supposed to increase in any way, I haven't been informed of that.
So the open gym, there isn't a bus going to the recreation center, because I was told that there was supposed to be.
The middle school? No, the rec hasn't approached me about a bus coming from the middle school going over there after school. It's only been elementary.
Yeah, my understanding of the open gym as well, and their enrollment could definitely increase, I'm sure, but I think you have to register for it. So I would definitely think that they would give the school call when those numbers go up. But Kelly, I agree with you. When the numbers go up or their programming, and like I don't have that information either, so it probably might be good for the direct to contact, to contact Aaron and kind of work through that and figure it out. But I agree with you. I think that once the numbers go up, it is definitely a position I think we should start looking at re-putting it back in there.
Yeah, maybe maybe I'll reach out to the rec, because I think it'd be a good idea if the kids do have the opportunity to take the bus over there. For some reason, I was given the impression that there was going to be a bus over there and that there would be a need for the the buses, possibly with a bus monitor.
I think I was under the impression with the rec that they were kind of following the footsteps of the school when school got back, in session, that they would start opening. And I thought maybe now that we were in 5 days a week, that maybe they were going to start opening maybe more to the kids. But I guess that's not the case. So.
Yeah, I
we'll
mean,
have
so we work
to look into
closely.
that.
We work closely with the rec department, and when they did open up for the younger grades, we did arrange for that bus. And if they do start to open up those programs at the middle school level, we'll definitely have that conversation with them. That being said, we would maintain that 24 student ridership. So there may, even if we do add a bus route, there may not be a need for a monitor regardless, because we are limiting the ridership. But obviously it's a case by case basis. If it's a need, we have the funds, we will absolutely, I'll absolutely staff it if necessary.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, this is why, when budget meetings happen and stuff and people want to start like cutting things from the rec. Well, I'm kind of seeing why now when they're not opening programs. It's time to start opening those programs up. These kids need a place to go after school. I believe Fun is open in Hampton. I know it's a private thing, but well, hopefully they'll start opening up soon. I'm not sure.
But as far as the buses being capped, they're not going to be capped per se forever. You know what I mean? Say right now we're in that situation, but hopefully very soon down the road, that's not the case.
I mean, we can't control the programs that go on at the rec for sure, but when numbers do rise, I definitely, believe that job should be staffed.
And I'm not certain that there aren't programs. They just haven't reached out to us for busing. So I'll give the director a call and see if they have a need proactively. But they haven't reached out to us, and we do have a close relationship. So if they did have the need, I'd be shocked if they didn't call me.
Yeah, I haven't looked online to see what they're offering for programs right now for middle school.
And
I do know they have open gym, and it's because I actually just called last week, and my husband was going to bring my boys in, and I actually called because originally it was 4th grade and under. You did not need a guardian to go into open gym, and just last week they opened open gym, and for 4th.
Kelly, I think we lost you.
She froze.
Froze up. Kelly, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I do know that there is open gym over there. It didn't take place as of last week, and you're right, you do have to sign up, but I'm wondering if maybe the reason they do not have an increased number going over there is because they don't have the transportation. I mean, that's definitely to look into.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to reach out, I guess, and see what's up.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately that's
Maybe
their
do that.
responsibility. It's
Yeah.
their programming. We're happy to facilitate, but we'll absolutely reach out and proactively. And Kelly, to your point about ridership, we'll absolutely open up the numbers in buses once it is at that safe level. So whether that's herd immunity or vaccines, when we've been directed by the CDC and the DHHS that's appropriate, we will absolutely, we are very impatient about getting more students on buses so that we can fit more students on the buses. That'd be great.
Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, you're welcome. Is there anything else that you wanted to look into? Or can I just continue?
You can continue.
Okay.
Mhm.
We have a competency-based education presentation.
Yes, so we'll be bringing in teachers and administrators to give that presentation for you.
Thank you.
And I can just give kind of a where we're at intro while they're bringing our teachers in, and just a big thank you to Lauren, to Constant, and the teachers who are here that will get introduced shortly for this presentation and giving up their time. We're lucky to have teachers who are passionate about competency-based education. I started a little over three and a half years ago, I guess, and just as I was starting, we were really starting this work, and we were working with John Vander Els, and we've continued to do a lot of great work with John and with the SAU, working on performance assessments. And we've had teachers come and kind of present to you. Last spring, just before we all went remote, we had a presentation prepared, and we pushed that off just to give an update of where we were at with competencies and grading. So we've continued to do a lot of work. I commend all of our staff, really, because these are hard times to be teaching regardless, and we really have plugged through and continued in this work while living through a pandemic. So it's pretty impressive, I think. I'm impressed by our staff for the work that they've done. We've done a lot of work with rubrics this year, and just really a lot of enthusiastic teachers with a lot of energy. So I'll stop talking and pass it on to Lauren, who can introduce the team and, without further ado, get the presentation started. So thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you, everybody, for giving us time tonight to share some of what we've been working on at the middle school. What I'm going to do is share my screen so I can put up the slides, and then I'll introduce the teachers that are here. So it'll take me a second to just, I need to be a co-host to share my screen. So that'll take a second. Thank you. All right. Okay. So tonight we have a few teachers that graciously volunteered to represent the work that we've been doing at the middle school. We have Patty Ascanio. She teaches 7th grade science. She can give a wave in case you haven't seen Patty. We have Melissa Brown from 5th grade math. Melissa's here tonight. Rebecca Sherbon teaches 8th grade language arts. Hannah Stone teaches 7th grade math. And we have Dawn Olson, who teaches 6th grade language arts. So thank you for being here tonight and putting the time in that you did to prepare for tonight. So just as Erin said, we've been continuing the work this year on competency-based education, just kind of blending in from the work we did the last few years. And teachers, even though we've been in this very challenging year, have continued to work tirelessly towards the goal of competency-based education for our students. One of the things that we've done this year is we've continued with what we call an embedded professional development opportunity, which has John Vander Els meeting with our teachers during our school day, working with them on building rubrics, on looking at student work, on talking through how does competencies look in the classroom, giving feedback. And along with that, we've been reading a book that he wrote on competency-based education and having an embedded book group for the whole staff. So on our staff meetings, once a month, we've been getting together as a staff and really digging in deeply to what competency-based education looks like in practice, and then applying that in our classrooms. So it's been a really nice professional development opportunity. We've also collaborated with teachers at Barnard School in Southampton as they're on their competency journey within our SAU, and they've been joining us for our work with John as well. So we've had a very rich professional development opportunity this year, even though we've had a lot going on at the same time. And Patty's going to say a few words about that because she's a new staff with us this year. Patty?
Sure. So as a new teacher, the professional development that we've had, being able to collaborate with other teachers in the district, working with John, working with all of the staff at SMS, I mean, it has given me a really good understanding of competency-based learning. And it's also helped me to see the benefits to all of our students.
Right. I mean, and I think just having new staff come in and have that professional development while we're working on competencies, I think has been really beneficial. One of the other things that we've been working on across SAU is a Habits of Learning Committee. And that's something that's been happening for a couple of years. But this year, we've been able to firm up some of what we call habits of learning, standards and competencies for students. And these are those skills that are kind of the softer skills to academics. We think of those academic skills, and then there's also skills of self-direction, collaboration, creativity, skills that we really want our students to be able to get feedback on and grow with as they head into high school as well. So this is an SAU-wide initiative that we've participated in, and Seabrook has had an opportunity this year to look carefully at self-direction as one of the standards and competencies. And we'll talk about that in a couple of slides from now. So this year, for people that have middle school students, you've been able to see on our Power School and on our report card that teachers have been scoring students using a 1 to 4 performance scale, along with a traditional grade. So we've had a hybrid model this year where students have been able to see both and parents have been able to see both. The grading and performance scale is on a 1 to 4 scale. This is something we're using across the SAU, and teachers have had lots of opportunities to practice and share ideas with each other and build rubrics using this 1 to 4 scale. It's more of a growth continuum than it is a fixed point in time. So students can really go from a 1 to a 2 to a 3 as proficient, and then advanced or exceeding mastery within each subject, depending on their strengths and opportunities for learning. So the performance scale is just a great opportunity for kids and students, for students to grow across a continuum. So Melissa's going to share a little bit about what that looks like from a teacher's point of view, working with kids in math in terms of reassessment and improving student engagement and their ability to grow from their learning. Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa Brown. I teach 5th grade math. I love teaching math, and some of my experience has been that students find math really challenging, but that isn't their greatest obstacle. I find that when students have a fixed mindset and see math as having a right answer and a wrong answer, they have trouble slowing down and working through problems by trying multiple solutions. A student's level of confidence is a huge factor in that process. If a student doesn't believe they're able to succeed, they tend to give up. When students are willing to take risks, make mistakes, receive teacher feedback, learn from those mistakes, and then take that opportunity to reassess, they're the most successful. For example, when a student receives a C as a traditional grade, they tend to just accept it. They let it define who they believe they are as a math student. Their mindset might be, I'm a C, and they might not have the confidence to keep working hard to improve. In the 1, 2, 3, 4 proficiency scale, it's more common, I've seen, for students who earn a 2, which is the developing level, to ask what they can do to improve to earn a 3, to become proficient. This is a really important shift. This method of scoring provides feedback for students so that they can improve and grow. With competency-based learning, students have opportunities for reassessment in order to learn from mistakes and practice skills. I'm looking forward to continuing to boost students' confidence and motivation through competency-based learning in my classroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. It's always so great to have a teacher's voice, because that's really what's happening in our classrooms at the middle school. Feedback and reassessment and watching the students grow. So another thing that we've been able to work on this year is with competency-based education, we're looking at applying skills that students know. So they learn the skills and the content, but then they get a chance to apply it through performance assessments. One of the things that Hannah and Patty have worked on today, this year, is STEM, which is the science, technology, engineering, and math practices, kind of applying those and integrating them together. So Hannah's going to explain a little bit about what you see in the picture and how they've been working on that. Hannah?
Hi, Hannah Stone, a 7th grade math teacher. And as Lauren introduced, in the 7th grade, we've been able to combine math and science classes and participate in what we like to call STEM Wednesday. And competencies blend across content areas, and STEM Wednesday allows us to show students that their classes not only blend, but directly relate to the real life. So the picture that you see is an experiment where the students investigated buoyancy, where they looked at density and whether or not a certain fruit would float or sink in water. So in this experiment, we looked at a grape and a cherry tomato. And students then added sugar cubes, and they recorded the number of cubes it took for each fruit to reach buoyancy. And we were able to connect math concept into this by going into mean, median, mode, and range. And this was really cool because of the pandemic, we have had to consolidate our curriculum a little bit. And this was a skill that was actually missed in the students' 6th grade curriculum. So STEM Wednesday just provides that additional opportunity to teach competencies that COVID has really made us consolidate our curriculum for. And the student engagement is incredible. They're so excited. They love it. And Patty actually has some pictures on the next slide that she can show you to go into more depth about this.
Thanks, Hannah. Patty?
So Patty Ascanio, 7th grade science. And the students are always asking us, when are we ever going to use this in real life? So with STEM Wednesday, it gives us the opportunity to show them how really all subjects get integrated when you're in real world applications. So looking at our pictures, if you start in the upper left, we have some students that are learning about theoretical versus experimental probability while also carrying out experiments. If we go counterclockwise, Hannah and I actually did a coffee cup pendulum demonstration, and then the students got to get their own pendulum and learn a little bit more about how they actually work. The next picture with the hairdryer, we were learning about Bernoulli's principle as well as angles. The students were trying to figure out how far they could tilt that hairdryer while keeping the ball in the air. The next picture is another of the fruity investigation that Hannah just talked about. The next two pictures, we actually took the Bernoulli experiment and looked at it in a much larger perspective. And we've had so much fun with the kids, putting activities together, seeing them engaged in the learning while also having fun. And really, I see this as laying the foundation for next year and even beyond. With competency-based learning, we can continue to integrate multiple subjects into real-world applications with high student engagement. And I have one short video clip of just one of the students talking about why they like STEM.
I'm not sure if the video clip played or if you could hear it, but I mean, the student just talked about how he really enjoys seeing how math and science relate to one another and how you can just see it in a different perspective outside of the classroom. But like Patty and Lauren have been saying, like, students are really excited about this. And in fact, the first thing a student said to me last Wednesday, he was really excited. He's like, Miss Stone, is today STEM Wednesday? Like, he loves just the opportunity to do something that is out of the norm. And especially right now, kids love doing things that they're not really used to doing under all of the strict rules. But so math has been a big focus in the district, and then STEM Wednesday has provided the opportunity to not only see a math concept blend with the science concept, but then I'm also able to take that skill back into the classroom and expand on it with the students' learning and performance assessments. And it just gives an opportunity to teach and cover competencies in a different way that allows students to take control of their own learning.
Thanks, Hannah. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see how I can move this slide. Okay. So Thinking about what I mentioned in the beginning of having that district-wide Habits of Learning Committee, one of the areas that that committee worked on for competencies and standards is our self-direction standards. And in Seabrook, we decided that for trimester 3 of this year, teachers and students would work together to start looking at how to apply self-direction standards in the classroom, how to assess them, how to give feedback on them, how to talk about them with students. And as you can see on your screen, when we're thinking about self-direction, we're thinking about multiple areas of self-awareness, goal setting, ownership, perseverance, management of learning, and self-reflection. So it's really those skills that we hope students can transfer across different disciplines and, of course, into the future of their lives up into high school and beyond. These are the skills that are the 21st century skills or the work-study practices that we're emphasizing in our classrooms now. So I'm going to have Dawn share a little bit about her experience with that. Dawn?
Perfect. Thank you, Lauren. Hi, I'm Dawn Olson, 6th grade language arts. And I'm really very happy to be here to be able to talk about competency-based learning and the habits of learning, something that we are just so excited and passionate about, and that is just really great for students. So one of our goals with the implementation of the competency-based learning is to bring authentic experiences into the classroom as a way to develop the 21st century skills, our habits of learning. Self-direction, creativity, collaboration, communication. So a generation ago, we might have been able to expect that what teachers taught students would last them a lifetime. But today, because of rapid economic and social change, we're preparing students for jobs and problems that may not exist now, but certainly will in the future. So these habits of learning, they encourage our students to be leaders so that they are strong contenders and can engage in global, complex, rapidly changing world. So this year, as Lauren stated, we've taken a strong focus on self-direction to motivate students to take the lead in their learning. And that learning takes place best in environments where students feel empowered to learn and the teachers become more like moderators, offering inspiration, guiding students to discover for themselves. If you give students the opportunity to be self-learners, it guarantees lifelong learning. Students ask questions, they find the answers to their questions, and they wonder aloud as they discover new information. We encourage collaboration, which may actually well be the heart of the classroom, in which students develop speaking and listening skills, share ideas, and are willing to accept the ideas and perspectives of others. So they begin to accept multiple viewpoints. Students then effectively set and achieve goals individually as well as together. So students with the habits of learning also begin to develop the deep critical thinking skills that we're looking for. So learning is more than just memorizing and remembering. The critical thinking takes the students well beyond the simple comprehension of their information. They can begin to solve problems in new situations and make inferences and generalizations, combine information and new patterns, and make judgments based on evidence and criteria. So we want to introduce activities in our lessons that build critical thinking skills along with the language skills and the development of strong communication skills and that self-direction. And as we develop the habits of learning, we also want to encourage students to be creative throughout each lesson. So creative activities allow the students to express what they've learned in new ways, and they synthesize and personalize the knowledge, and it consolidates their learning, basically. It creates an experience that remains with the students long after the class is over. So of course, students do need time to adjust to this new way of learning, but I have already seen students begin to feel empowered to think more critically, to ask questions, to seek answers, and to express themselves creatively. Their communication skills and self-direction are becoming stronger as a result of implementing the habits of learning, and these skills will only continue to grow and strengthen, which will always be our main objective. I have actually gotten really excited over some of the rich conversations I have had with students this year. For example, in the past, perhaps we worked in a narrative writing unit, and students complete the writing assignment, receive timely feedback, which they may or may not pay attention to. We move on, and students most often don't seem to always have much of that transfer of knowledge. They rarely carry that knowledge or skill learned across assignments or across other content areas. So in carrying those skills, knowledge, and the proficiency in that particular standard on that assignment across the content area is what actually shows the true proficiency. So, but now students approach me to have conversations such as this. Ms. Olson, I went back to look at the notes we took this week, and I was looking at this skill that we're working on. Can we look at this assignment together so that we can talk about how I can apply this skill so that I can begin to raise my proficiency? So now I work with sixth graders, and the first time a student engaged in a conversation like this with me, I was floored, for lack of a better term, I guess. I was just really excited and actually really in awe of my students. Up until this point, I was excited for competency-based learning, sure. I figured it was going to be good for students, but we hadn't really seen much of it in action yet, right? So when these conversations started taking place, it had solidified everything I had thought about competency-based learning and what I hoped I actually would see. And now I am seeing it. So when we work on projects and assignments with students engaging in specific standards, we hope we're seeing that growth, and we often are, and sometimes maybe not as much, but these rich conversations make that growth tangible. It shows the students' growth right before our eyes, basically, we can see it. So when students have conversations like this with me and are self-directed in their learning in sixth grade, and they're practicing the habits of learning, I know that they can then have those conversations in seventh grade and in ninth grade and in 12th grade. So basically what I've seen is that competency-based learning is really great for our students. Habits of learning, really great for our students. And I can't wait to see, and I'm very excited to see how competency-based learning and the habits of learning will look in our school in 2 years and then in 5 years. And I can't wait to see the transformation in my classroom, as well as the transformation and growth in students as they're preparing to be lifelong learners and strong contributors in their community with a strong set of skills that are the habits of learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. So just with that habits of learning, like Dawn was explaining, for trimester 3 here at the middle school, you're going to be able to see on the report card when we finish the year and we see our T3 grades for our middle schoolers, you're going to have a section on the report card that says habits of learning, and they'll have a self-direction score of a 1, 2, 3, or a 4. So this is just the beginning of adding in those habits of learning. We decided to start that for T3 of this year so we can pick up in September and really start integrating that, as Dawn explained, into our classrooms in a more deeper level. So be on the lookout for that section of the report card on T3 when we finish the year. So kind of looking ahead, this has been a busy year, as you can hear, from teachers really digging into this content and trying to apply it and applying it and supporting each other along the way. For next year, our goal is to continue using that student progress and performance of a 1 to 4 scale with teachers and students, refining our rubrics, gathering exemplars of our 4s, really talking about how students can extend their learning from proficient to exceeding, defining that reassessment opportunities, making protocols for that so that students have access to timely feedback and ways that they can grow across the continuum. So next year, we're really hoping we are going to pick up and dig deeper into that performance scale. With that, we're going to shift away from the hybrid grading model to a full competency-based assessment model, which really focuses, again, on that performance assessments and reporting of proficiency across the growth continuum, using the grade level standards and the overall competencies to score students versus a traditional score of an A, B, or a C. We're moving towards a full competency-based assessment model for September. And Rebecca is going to say her comments there. Rebecca?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Sherbon. I teach 8th grade language arts. And I will be honest with you, I am a teacher who likes to just sort of stay the course and have everything be as it was. So change for me is sometimes really hard. So I like to know about what I'm switching to. So I did a lot of research on competency-based learning. And at first I was terrified. How can you give a grade to a kid that's 1 through 4? And then this genius came out, and I have no idea who it was, but it was in one of our professional development series, who talked to me, or all of us, I think, about a bike and how a competency-based scale goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And you just have to think about it like, when you're a kid, you're learning how to ride a bike, you get on a tricycle and you have a lot of support, and you're learning the foundations of it and the balance and like figuring out exactly what you're trying to do. And then you progress to a bike with training wheels. You don't need as much help. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, this kind of makes sense. If I'm connecting it to learning, this makes a lot of sense to me. So we're giving a topic, we're giving them as much support as they need, and then we're giving them a little bit of room to grow, to experiment with training wheels. And, you know, that's a 2. And then you move forward to the 3 and you take those training wheels off and you think they can do this. They can actually get on this bike, they can ride this bike, they know what's expected, they know what they're supposed to do, and they don't need us really. They're showing that they are proficient in this. And then there's the 4. And the 4 I had a hard time grasping until they explained to me it was like doing a wheelie. It was like popping a wheelie on a bicycle. And that made sense to me because they're taking every single skill that they've learned about riding that bike thus far, and then they're just taking it one step further. So for me, it's really clear that making this switch from traditional grading into competency-based grading, it takes courage. It takes a lot of courage, especially for someone like me who is so used to, you know, I'm offering you 10 points to earn. You're either going to earn the 10 points or you're not. It's not that anymore. With this change comes this awesome possibility for advancement with our kids. You know, it may seem at first moving from traditional grading into a competency-based grading scale is like taking little tiny hops across a canyon, but we're getting there and we're doing a great job. You know, it's important that we point out that we had to take a look at what the weaknesses were in our traditional grading scale. It's not reliable. Expectations can differ from one classroom to the next. It's allowing students to sometimes advance to the next unit without mastering the skill. And there's a problem there. We want these kids to be mastering the skills before we're moving on. And competency-based grading does that. And I'll be honest with you, I was really nervous about this switch. So it's surprising that I'm helping urge this process along, because at first I was like, oh no, it is an A-. Students with traditional grading, they can earn low but passing scores and still just move right on without that substantive learning that we're really trying for in our classrooms. And again, it's just the fact that, you know, that grading can be subjective. You know, I know that you have more in you, so this is a C, but with competency-based grading, the kids know exactly what they need to do to hit the standards that we're applying. So there are some weaknesses there. And then there are some awesome pros with competency-based learning. You've got the clearly stated expectations. It's helping organize teachers. It's helping organize learning. It's helping organize grading. As you heard earlier, there's this awesome ability to just make these beautiful cross-curricular and interdisciplinary units, which is important because time is precious. As we're learning this year, you know, we have to essentially trick these kids into learning 3 different subjects in one lesson. And it's happening. It's happening everywhere. Competency-based learning gives honest feedback regarding where they're standing in their reach to be proficient, in their reach for just riding that bike without the training wheels. And it takes away that like shame of, oh, I hit a D-. Well, it's not hitting a D-. It's look at what you've mastered so far. And you just have to take these steps, which in competency-based grading are clearly outlined in rubrics. And then that just kind of pushes them right along, which is super helpful for kids because they don't have to think like, oh my gosh, I failed a test. It's not that. It's, oh my gosh, I get to try this one more time and I'm going to crush it next time because I know exactly what I need to do. Competency-based grading helps with equity, and it's fair because it completely removes the subjectivity of giving an A, of giving a B. Well, you tried really hard, so I'm going to give you that A. Well, it's not that. It's whether or not you hit your standard. And that's really helpful. And then it's a valid assessment against key standards and long-term learning goals, because you're able to, again, help organize your teaching in a manner that's going to mark every single thing that they need. So that's great. For a teacher like me, that's really great. I know that there are some concerns because they were my concerns. You know, without deadlines, how are students held accountable? You know, real life doesn't allow do-over. Well, thank goodness we do, because we're teaching kids how to recognize what you need to do and how to organize a path to get there. So coming from a teacher who is very used to following the path that I learned in the 90s, was I nervous about this change at first? Yes. Do I recognize that it takes courage to make a switch like this? Yes. Is it going to present some little hurdles that we'll all have to jump? Absolutely. But we're lucky that we have teachers and administrators who are open to conversations with parents every minute of the day.
So,
And-
Rebecca, I just noticed a hand went up. So I want to make sure that we have time for.
Well, Lauren, that's
something different.
that's up to the chair.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Yep.
because it's at a different point, the public
Oh,
comment.
okay.
So
It's
that's
not
up
in the
to
comments.
Yep, up to the discretion of the chair, yeah.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you for noticing.
So just to sum it up, you know, we are going to continue to assess on the normal 1 to 4 scale, which is great. We're still going to be talking about grades a little bit, and then we're going to make that conversion over to that 1 to 4, which again, I think that the most important thing is transparency and communication with parents and the community, and making sure that we are open for questions, for comments, for concerns, because they will come up. So I think that the main goal is to ready our kids, get them ready for the world, get them ready for high school. And along the way, if we can help them learn about themselves as learners, then I think we're doing right by them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. So that's really our update for tonight. If there's any questions that anyone has that we could answer?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to commend all of our educators that really put this presentation together. I myself am super impressed with the work that you guys are doing. It's kind of like speaking my language here. So I love what you guys are doing. And just keep it up. This is really amazing. This is really amazing.
Thank you, Forrest. Appreciate that.
Actually,
They are amazing.
I actually do have a question really quick. I love your bicycle analogy because that actually helped me kind of walk through it too. So I really enjoy that. I will say the same thing as far as that. I think it's really great that you guys are so excited about like equity, which we talked about last time. And my question would be for students that are exceeding expectations. So if they hit that 4 mark, are we offering differentiation for them? I mean, I know we differentiate a lot as kids are working through it and maybe need that extra help, but for students that are not going above and beyond, but they feel like you feel like they've really mastered it. Are we, what are we doing, I guess, in that sense to make sure that those kids are still being challenged and encouraged?
Yeah, thanks for that question, because the 4 is really that conversation that that Rebecca brought up. So with competency-based education, the beauty is that students aren't held back and that the 4 allows for differentiation, allows for individualization and personalized learning. So when a student is proficient in a skill or a content area, they can approach the teacher. The teacher can have something ready for them, of course, but then there's those students have already this year approached teachers and said, is there a way for me to apply this science? Is there a way for me to apply this, what we're learning, in a different way? And then they have a conversation and a conference with that teacher and create a new way to apply it. So we've only begun. I mean, we're at the tip of the iceberg of ways that our Seabrook students can exceed proficiency. That's the exciting work, because it's talking about creativity and creating creative writing opportunities and science applications and guest speakers and reaching out to community members, and it goes on and on. The potential of a 4, that's the application of the material. And as soon as we can get kids energized with that, and teachers are clearly energized, we're going to start really seeing students reaching and for more than just a grade, but reaching for that, exceeding that proficiency. That's exciting. And I'm hoping, that you felt that excitement in the teachers tonight. So.
We appreciate it.
Great.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't know. Was there somebody that wanted to speak? My computer had froze for a good segment, so I came in on that.
You have one attendee who has a hand raised, Maria.
Okay, I don't have a problem if people want to speak if they have a question about this, as long as it's pertaining to what we're talking about in the moment.
Okay.
I can bring them in to allow them to talk. I would just ask them to state their name and their affiliation with the school.
Sure.
Okay. So Maria, I've given you access. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what part of the meeting you're in. I had a hard time getting in. I was on the phone for a little bit. I don't know what was going on, but what I just wanted to speak on the public comment on agenda items, not necessarily this, although I think that presentation was wonderful and it's really a great thing to hear and see. So if you've had public comment already, I'm sorry, but I missed it. But if not, after you're finished, I'd like to ask a few things. Not sure what was in your superintendent report and all that, but
If you like, Jessica, we can excuse the presentation, all of our presenters, thank them and excuse them, and we could take a comment if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for giving us the time tonight. I really appreciate you listening to us, and I really want to thank the teachers in particular for stepping forward and volunteering to prepare the presentation tonight, and then just their passion for our Seabrook students and their passion for learning is just so clearly evident in tonight's presentation, and they bring that to the classroom every day. And look at where we are, we're in April, and they still have that enthusiasm for learning and teaching. It's just fantastic. Couldn't be more proud to work in this district with these teachers. So I want to thank everybody again. And if there's any questions as we move along, you can certainly reach out to Erin and myself anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Lauren.
you guys for that.
Great job, everyone.
Great job.
You.
All right, one moment while we move people around.
Am I good? I think.
I think so, and you can bring Maria back in if she would still like to make a comment.
Okay.
Christina's gone also.
Oh, we'll get her right back in here.
Oh,
Yeah, I've been having trouble. My computer keeps freezing and I've been booted out a couple of times. So if I disappear, I'm not sure what's going on.
sorry about that, Christina.
That's okay. I saw you, but I didn't see me, and I thought, am I supposed to be? Thanks, Jen.
So Maria, I did give you access for your question again. Again, if you can just state your full name and your affiliation with the school.
So I'm Maria Brown, resident and taxpayer of Seabrook. And one of my questions may or may not be answered tonight, but I'd like to just throw it out there. The governor keeps coming in with, new ideas for the schools to go back in. And the last one that I had listened to, and I didn't get the whole thing, but he had mentioned that remote learning days may or may not count as school days and will have to be made up. And I was just wondering where, and I don't know if that was in the superintendent's report, excuse me if it was, I couldn't get in. But I think just if you know where you're at, if not, we can talk about it after the meeting, maybe a phone call, but it is a concern.
Thank you. I can address that if you like.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you. And that's a good segue into my report when we get there. But thank you for that question. The last executive order number 89 from Governor Sununu was that all schools need to offer in-person learning 5 days per week as of April 19th. So, but you're correct, Maria, in that a piece of that is, for those students who are in 5 days a week, those hours need to add up to the required number of hours by the end of the school year. So we cannot count remote hours for those in-person students from April 19th to the end of the school year. All of their in-person hours need to satisfy our total number. Now that we still do have students who are fully remote in RLA and Seabrook Middle, and those students, those hours do count for them. So the executive order mentioning remote hours, those were only for the students who are in person 5 days per week. And we've determined that at Seabrook Middle, we do have that. We're satisfying those hours. I'm going to be sending out a special letter tomorrow, Thursday at the latest, that explains where our districts are with regards to the executive order, how it could impact us, and how even if we are making changes, which I don't anticipate at Seabrook, we're keeping all of the safety protocols in place. So 6 foot distancing, mask wearing, limiting transitions, keeping cohorts as much as possible. There could be some extra flexibility after April break, however, because our teachers will have had access to the vaccines, full vaccines by then, 2 weeks after our second dose. So there is some flexibility with the staff. They can move about more freely, but our students, as you know, have not had access. So their protocols stay the same. And we also need to follow our MOA through the end of the school year. So, but I'll be sending out more detailed about Executive Order 89 shortly. Thank you. Happy to take any questions on that. Would you like me to segue in?
Sure. If we're done with questions, I thought she had a few, but yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Maria, are you done with at this point, or? I don't know if we lost her. Okay, we're going to go ahead with the superintendent's report. She can raise her hand again if she has another
I did bring
question.
her in. She's in.
Okay.
She just needs to unmute herself.
Okay.
Deb, can you take Dawn Olson out? She doesn't need to still be in the meeting, please.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. I left the meeting, I guess. So thank you for that answer. That's a huge relief to us who are still at home. And on the remote thing, I just want you to know it's been a great experience for me anyways, as a grandparent. The teachers have been phenomenal and the program has been phenomenal and it really has went well. Just like to say that. The other thing is on the agenda items, how do you still do that you send to the chair if you have requests for agenda items to go on the meetings, or how does that work now?
I meet with all board chairs and principals a week or two prior to every meeting so that they have the opportunity to review the draft agenda and add any items that they would like to add.
Okay, and the last thing, it's been quite some time and I'm just trying to think community with everything that has been going on, and we've all had a rough year and we're making it through. But the school board meetings used to play on Channel 22 regularly, and it's been a very long time since I've seen an updated one on Channel 22. So I don't know if we can somehow connect, because I think it's important, town, school, and community, to keep going, because it was a great connection prior to. So if we could kind of look at that and see how to bring that back, I'd really appreciate it. And that's it for me for today. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we can look into the meetings for Channel 22, but all meetings are on the website for anybody at any time to go back and watch. But I'm not sure, can we find, is there a disc or some way to get it to Seabrook? We used to send over like the video of it, but I'm not sure how we would do it this way, if it could be done electronically or not.
We do.
We'll look into it and ensure that Channel 22 gets a copy. So
thank you.
I
think it's a
can
great.
talk to Kelsey because I work with her and ask her what she recommends, because I do know that she had said that to me before, if you like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She's very good.
Okay, Caroline, we can go ahead with the superintendent's report now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'll keep this brief. I know we have even another presentation at 6:30, one or two of us might have to step out to a Hampton Falls board meeting, but I think that will be fine. We'll take care of it. So just briefly, I want to highlight a couple pieces in my report. As I mentioned, this Saturday is our second dose for educators. So we'll be having the Moderna second dose this Saturday morning at the Winnicott Gym. And that'll allow 42 to 48 hours of time should a group of employees require some time to recover if they have any symptoms after the second dose. So again, we extend our deep gratitude to the Hampton Fire, Hampton Falls EMTs and Fire, and Northampton, who are working hard for us to administer the vaccines to any and all of our educators. Spring sports are just starting. All of our districts are offering after-school sporting activities in different forms because we know how much kids love it. They have to get outside, and we want to offer some things after school for kids. So that is well underway. Thank you for all of your support with that and Erin's hard work with that. And I just wanted to mention that, with all of our fantastic return to in-person learning, we are, you're going to hear about CARES ESSER proposal for allocating the second grant money, and that's going to be really exciting. And also, I've met with students, parents, and staff to hear about how things are going given these phases, reopening phases, and how teaching and learning is going for them. So I've included some pretty exciting and thoughtful quotes from our educators in my report. And that's it for me this month. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I think you're
You can
muted.
Go ahead and with principal reports, Erin.
I believe we had one other.
You want me to go, you want Dave to go first for assistant superintendent?
Go ahead. I have 3 screens going and I'm trying to keep them all going at the same time. Dave, you can go, and then Erin, you can follow. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Erin. No worries. I can make this pretty short. Well, the first thing on my report is about the CARES ESSER funding, so I don't want to steal that thunder. You're going to get a presentation on that in just a few minutes. But the good news is the money is in there, and Seabrook's done a great job of putting together a plan for it. Second on my report is the certification update. I wanted to make sure you guys know that we are ensuring that all of our teachers are maintaining their endorsements. We've got over 172 endorsements that we're chasing down for this year, and making sure that people follow up with the DOE, and we're all accredited. And then third, it's less impactful to Seabrook, but nonetheless, I want you to know about it. We are starting a world language program review, much like we did with math last spring. And for you guys, it might not include actual changing programs or looking at staffing or anything like that. However, what we do intend to do is create basically a body of best practices around world language instruction. I've attended a lot of the vertical meetings that they've had, and we're also doing some homework in terms of research-based best practice. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, be on the lookout for resources coming from the SAU on that, and also a tightening up of curriculum across the SAU with respect to world language, which should be helpful for all of us. So I'll leave it at that and move on to Erin. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any questions for Dave? All right, you can go ahead, Erin. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I will be brief because I know our middle school presentation was a bulk of my time, but I just want to just take a few minutes to say thank you to some people who stepped in a pinch last weekend when we found out that we were not going to have any kitchen staff. And I'll be honest, my first reaction was, oh my gosh, we're going to have to go remote. And Caroline, thank you for your work with me, because she said, no, we're not. And she was right, because thanks to Owen Carter Duffy and Joyce Philippone and Jim DeShays, Michelle Eaton, Mary Beth Bilton, Diane Powers, and also Lauren DeConstant and Jessica Parsons, who all stepped in. I could cry really just thinking about it, and helped Abigail, who was there for the week and did an amazing job running things, but just made the kitchen work, and our kids got fed, and they all did it with smiles on their faces. So it was really fun to watch, and just kind of speaks to the community we have here. So just wanted to highlight that big thanks, because kids got fed and nobody had to go remote, and it was a beautiful thing. And thank you, Caroline, for helping me to persevere through and make sure that happened. It was great. You can read my report, but in the elementary school, I just highlighted this month some of the things the Unified Arts team is doing to be creative. You know, they see all of the students, so we're cognizant of the safety of that, and they're really, now that it's nicer out, working hard to use outdoor spaces and being creative. You can see a music class in my picture, so just kudos to all of the elementary Unified Arts staff for their creativity and seeing all the kids and finding great ways to do it. It's been pretty impressive to watch. Middle school is going well with the transition. We're still having students asking to come in person, and we're working hard to be creative to get everybody in. And so that's going well. We will be having some spring testing coming up, NWEA and also the New Hampshire SAS. So we're working hard to get that all set up, and that'll be starting after April vacation. And then also working hard to offer the summer program that we have mentioned before. So there's lots of balls spinning in the air and lots of planning happening, but it's all going well. And then just a quick thank you to Circle K for their donation of masks and hand sanitizers. It's great community support, and we really appreciated that donation. So that's all I have.
I just have a couple of questions. Our kids are half days on Wednesdays right now, correct?
The middle school is. That's been the same schedule all year. Yeah, we didn't change our schedule when we came in person.
Right. So just wondering, we had just spoke about teachers that will be, fully vaccinated coming up. Will the shortened day and the half day be changing after that?
The plan is not to change that, and that schedule is happening that way because of the way that our schedule is on the other days and the long blocks of instruction on the other days, which leaves less time for teacher planning and meetings that in a regular schedule happen every day that don't happen on those other days. So they do that in the afternoons of Wednesday, and the kids' instructional blocks on the other days are 75-minute blocks. So they're getting longer blocks of instruction. So it's really kind of a similar time-wise for teacher planning and student instruction as a 5-day a week. It's just that we've got everything condensed so that they get out just a couple hours a little bit earlier on Wednesdays.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Matt, you can go ahead with the finance report.
Thank you. So we are progressing nicely from a finance side. There have been no significant or substantial changes from last month, so I won't go into great detail. I have included the expenditure and revenue reports. On the expenditure side, we're seeing some savings in salaries, student activities, and benefits. On the other hand, we are over budget in special education, transportation, and technology accounts. Furthermore, on the revenue side, we are receiving more revenue than we had estimated. As I've reported in the past, we do have some special education aid that was higher than expected, as well as some insurance rebates for health insurance, property and liability, et cetera. And we did receive that supplemental public school fund revenue that I reported back. So I'd be happy to answer any questions in regard to either of these reports, but we are on track to return a few $100,000 to the town to offset assessment at year end. As we get closer to the year end, I will have a better estimate. We do have another 2 months of school and operating expenses. So, thank you.
Sorry, my house is a little noisy. I have a couple of dogs that want to chase a squirrel right now. All right, so let me see. Superintendent search update, please.
Yep, that can be me. So today's the 13th. As of the 5th, we closed the position, the posting for the position. We had a really good bounce of applicants right prior to the deadline, which we were anticipating. So as of last week, we had 8 total applications that we vetted through the consultant. So we had more than we anticipated in terms of number of applicants. We added the joint board chair, the newly minted joint board chair, Leslie, to the committee. So she's got a voice in there now. I thought that was a step forward. And in terms of this week and last week, so we've got a total of 4, what they're calling short interviews. They're not very short, but we've got a total of 4 interviews, 2 last week and 2 this week. Last short interview being Thursday. Once we conduct those short interviews, we'll be in a position to move forward with what they're calling long interviews. And we're gonna let the process evolve organically after that. Yep, so that's where we are. And we'll have a lot more information come Thursday after we wrap up the short interviews.
Thank you. Any questions for Dave on the superintendent search? All right. Award of Chromebook bids.
Thank you. So the bid process has concluded for our annual Chromebook purchase. This was a cooperative bid process, so we do consolidate the RFP with Winnicott and Southampton, along with our Seabrook purchase to better achieve quantity of scale and better pricing. So bids were sent to 9 vendors and 7 submitted bids. Those results are included on board docs, and the administration is recommending award of bid to Limitless USA in the amount of $77,040. That's for a total of 240 Chromebooks, including the management license and warranty. And I will note that funding is to be utilized from the initial CARES ESSER grant funding, as well as from the operating budget.
Is there any questions on this? Okay, I'll go ahead and make that motion to award the bid to Limitless USA for $77,040. Looking for,
I'll second. Kelly, go for it.
all right, we just need a roll call.
Okay. Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
and Christina Kaiser.
Yes.
Vote taken.
Okay, we can go ahead and move on to CARES proposal presentation.
So this is an exciting part of the agenda. It's very rare that finance is exciting, but I'm taking advantage of that. So as you're aware, the federal government has passed three stimulus packages. The CARES ESSER 1 stimulus package funded approximately $200,000. Now that was for COVID related expenditures. So those were all costs that we incurred due to COVID. And there was no real opportunity to invest in those funds. However, there was the CARES 2 and CARES 3 funding opportunities. Now, we're at the CARES 2 point in time. They've allocated those funds. It's just under $900,000 that we will be able to utilize. We have not been allocated the CARES 3 funds yet. However, we do anticipate that to be between $1.8 million and $2 million. Once we receive that allocation, we'll be coming back with another proposal at that point in time. But for this evening, we are talking CARES 2 funds. And the exciting piece about the CARES 2 funds is that this is where we can look to actually utilize these funds for to improve learning experiences, to help our students directly. So for the expenditures to qualify, it can be any COVID related expenditure, but in addition, it can be anything that addresses learning loss, anything that prepares the school for reopening, or any testing, repairing, or upgrades, or projects that directly affect air quality in the schools. So this provides a great deal of latitude with how we can utilize the funds. And our leadership team at Seabrook has done a real wonderful job in analyzing our needs, determining where some initiatives and various projects and staffing could really affect some positive change for our students. And tonight they have a proposal, and Jessica Parsons will be going into more detail about how we intend to utilize those funds. So we are asking the school board to approve this proposal that Jessica will be presenting, and it's real exciting because it really is some significant funding, $900,000 that will address some real serious needs that will positively affect our students. So so I will stop rambling and leave it to Jessica. They put a great deal of thought into this proposal, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jessica Parsons, and I'm the new Director of Special Services. I started in July, and so I've been on a couple of meetings and I've attended a couple, but for those of you out there in the community who don't know who I am, I oversee the special education services, as well as basically anything students need, or to make sure that students get what they need. So we worked as an administrative team over the last several months, sort of looking at how COVID has impacted our students and where we and how we want to potentially meet those needs and work through that recovery process. So I'm going to share with you. Deb, will you give me sharing rights, please?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to share with you my presentation. And like Matt, I'm also very excited about this finance portion of this. And so what I thought would be helpful is giving you at the top the grant total of what we had to spend and then our proposed spending. And as you can see, we spent down to the last 85 cents. And I'm going to walk you through that. But just to note that the administrative team worked really hard to ensure that we were covering what we thought would meet the needs of students with this second round of CARES money, knowing that we would have a third round to work through some additional needs that we've found. So we went through and we sectioned it off by category. So the first area that we wanted to address was professional development for our staff. And we looked at it in terms of the whole child. And so we looked at it from a social emotional learning perspective, from a literacy perspective, from a math perspective, and then we wanted to look at it also from a systems perspective. So looking at retraining and also enhancing our training of responsive classroom. We currently use that curriculum K through 8 in different capacities, but it really is a way for us to incorporate social emotional learning in and throughout the day and communities for both schools. The next area that we're looking is literacy. That's that Fontes and Pinnell piece, but that's really bolstering our training for literacy for our teachers in the classroom. Eureka is our math program, so looking at continuing to provide professional development in that area. And then the last area is MTSS, and I apologize that I didn't, I used an acronym and I didn't spell that out, but it's multiple tiered systems of support. And that essentially is the system we're going to utilize to ensure that all students are going to get what they need from in the classroom to interventions outside the classroom, as well as more personalized and individual interventions potentially throughout their day. So that professional development is to help staff understand how to work students through that process when we identify a need, but also looking at it from a classroom perspective as well. Is it easier if I take questions per category area? So does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have questions about that professional development? No, okay. The next area we looked at was facilities, and we worked with Peter and his team to come up with, as well as the SAU, come up with a plan around how we'll use some of this money for our facilities. So if anyone's been in the building, the upstairs area that's been utilized for special education offices and for servicing students, we'd like to have an architect come up and look at that to see if there's a way that we can restructure that for more effective use. We also are looking to put 2 outdoor classroom structures in, and then an update to some middle school windows. Any questions on the facilities proposal?
I don't have a question on the facilities proposal, but in the future, maybe with the CARES 3 funding, I'm thinking that if we put some attention to the wooded area, that I know that our phys ed teachers use that area a lot. It's a great space, and one of the biggest issues they have out there, other than having some sort of either yurt or something for classroom-based activities, are the trees that are dead and they're a danger. So I would definitely love to see in the future putting some funding. I don't even know if we need to. I mean, they're probably 6 to 8 inches wide, the majority of those trees. but clearing out those dead trees that are out there will definitely make that a much safer environment for classrooms to go out during the day.
That's a great idea for us. And I will note that we are putting together a committee focused on outdoor learning space, and that will certainly be part of
That's awesome.
that the focus of that committee. And it's always prudent with those type of outdoor wooded areas. There's always some selective harvesting that needs to be done for the safety, regardless on a maintenance perspective. So that's something we'll make certain that we address during that committee, and will be certainly up for discussion for the third round of CARES, which hopefully we're crossing our fingers, will be soon.
All right, awesome, thank you.
Is that something that necessarily has to wait, Matt, or is that something that maybe we could find the money to do sooner?
We have the funds available now. However, that's part of the exercise as far as the committee is to look at those different areas, and that specifically. So once they do that, which I believe is in the next couple of weeks, we could certainly start that process.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on to technology, we worked with Dan and Kyle, and they came up with some areas in which we can certainly enhance in the area of technology and some replacement things to replace as well. And I wanted to say this in the beginning, but please note that some of these numbers are an estimate or our best guess. We've used previous invoices, or we've been working to get some quotes from some contractors, but at the end of the day, these aren't necessarily final numbers. They're more just kind of placeholders for us to build this proposal. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of technology listed here. Any particular questions about what we're proposing on the technology side? Great. Okay. The next area we're excited to kind of present is summer school. And we really have been having a lot of discussions around creating a summer program that is going to support students, and looking at it not just from an academic perspective, but again, from a whole student perspective. So looking at it from a social emotional as well as an enrichment perspective, and really trying to incorporate a fun program that's also going to be able to cover and get some academics covered over the course of the summer. So we're working on our program. Stay tuned for those details, but we're looking for staff for pre-K to 8, as well as incorporating food service and transportation into our summer program. Any questions about that?
Do you have like a number of students that you're looking to hit, that you're looking to engage?
That is a great question, Forrest. And if I had my way, I would like to engage all students to attend this program. And so we're going to do our best to market it so that we can get a high percentage of students there. But we also have to understand that families like to take some time off and travel and things like that. So we're thinking about that in terms of when we're having our programming and how we're going to do it throughout the weeks, and maybe not having programming on Fridays and Mondays to allow for those long weekends, but to really do it midweek, and to offer some components around transportation and partnering with some community agencies outside of the school to see if we can transport kids there before and after programming and things like that. So we want to really make it not only engaging, but also easy for families to access.
That's awesome.
Okay, so as you can see, this next portion here is where we're spending a majority of the money. And I talked a little bit about this before, but the MTSS is multiple tiered systems of support. And this is what we've sort of adopted as our structure in globally when we look at at our instruction and our student needs. And so the multiple tier systems of support not only cover supports, but also it looks at tier 1, which is in the classroom supports for kids. Not all supports have to happen outside of the classroom. So it's that tier 1 approach inside the classroom. It's tier 2, which may be outside the classroom, that's a little bit more individualized, and then on to tier 3 that might be more specialized for students. And so looking at how to ensure that we create a very robust MTSS system, we realized that there were some gaps in terms of our ability to provide services within this system. And so our recommendations for staffing are really around creating a system that will support kids holistically again. So the first is a district social worker. We all know that a kiddo can't come in and learn if their basic needs aren't met. And so we want to make sure that we are continuing to engage with families outside of school to ensure that their kiddos are able to come in and get what they need. And so right now we have one social worker for around our population of around 700 kids, and knowing that we have a high population of free and reduced lunch, we want to make sure that we're continuing to support in that area for our students and our families. So top priority for us right now is to get another social worker to support in that area. And we all know that COVID has had a huge impact on families in many different ways. And so again, having a social worker who can help engage families and support families and students to ensure that they're able to best access their education is a priority for us in terms of this process. Next, again, I'm sorry to use I'm sorry I used another acronym. BCBA is a board certified behavior analyst, and we know that behaviors look very differently across the board in our school system. And so we want to ensure that we're able to best support these behaviors for kids so that, again, they're able to access learning and that they're spending less time outside the classroom or less time having to work through those. So our next proposal would be a board certified behavior analyst for across the district. So that would be shared between both schools. Additionally, in order to support sort of what you as a board have really supported us with is getting for the younger grades an educational assistant in every classroom from grades K to 2. And so we would really like to try to increase that grades K to 3. And so with doing that, we'd like to add 2 educational associates so that we're able to partner teachers with assistants. We've seen a huge increase in student engagement this year by doing that. We're doing that in the elementary school currently, and it really has supported and I think has helped with some of that COVID recovery piece, because we've been able to sort of support kiddos in sort of small groups or one-on-one within the classroom, because the teacher has had a partner to support them in that process. Next is a case manager for special education. Right now at the elementary school, we have 4 case managers for grade levels. And I say that meaning that we have one case manager who's toggling between K and 1. We have another that's toggling between 2 and 3. We have another case manager who is focused on grade 4. And then we have another case manager who's supporting sort of our higher needs population. And because of our increase in special education referrals due to COVID, as well as just the increase in our identification of kiddos. And I'll real quick share with you that when I started, we were at about 10% special education, and the state average is high 14, hovering close to 15%. And so you can see that we're severely under-identified, and that average number typically increases when you have a higher rate of free and reduced lunch. And so I think we are starting to identify more kids, which is a good thing, because kids are getting what they need for services. But with that, we're also realizing that caseloads are much more difficult to manage for our case managers. And so we'd like to add another case manager so that we can make sure that caseloads stay manageable and that we're able to best serve kids within their needs. The next 3 proposed positions are interventionist positions. And so I talked a little bit about that multiple tiered systems of support. And in order for us to be able to provide those supports for kids, we need interventionists that are sort of targeted to those areas. And so right now, we'd really like to add a reading interventionist to the middle school, a math interventionist to the middle school, as well as just kind of a overall additional interventionist at the elementary school level. And again, these interventionists roles can look different depending on what student needs are within the building, but the goal isn't just to pull out kids. There'll be situations where some of these interventionists can actually go into the classroom and support small group and whole group instruction with classroom teachers. Any questions about the proposed staffing?
Yes, I have a couple. Are these positions just for 1 year?
So the funding is available for 3 years. So there is an end date of September of 2023. So what our thought would be is we may have to potentially roll some of these positions into the operating budget should the need continues, but for minimum we have 3 years to address these issues and determine how to then incorporate it into any of these items into the budget going forward if that's needed.
I mean, it's great. I'm glad that we are able to do this right now, but I don't see us being able to continue doing this, unfortunately. And my second question to educational associates, we just took some out of our budget for next year. I'm kind of confused as to why we need them now.
So, oh, Matt, did you want to go ahead?
No, please.
Okay. So I think that we saw this as an opportunity because over the last year, we've seen how important it is to have an EA, an educational associate, partnering with a teacher, especially in the younger grades. And so knowing with this COVID recovery piece and knowing that we've got some work to do with some of our kiddos, adding the 2 EAs is going to be really helpful for us in terms of this recovery process that we're going to be working through with students.
I have a question too. I'm just looking at, your numbers. Obviously, I'm assuming they're estimates. It's a lot of 100,000, 100,000, 100,000. I know that some may get close to that amount, but for those, maybe the interventionist or even whoever it is, if they're 80,000 and that's the salary that you're providing for that year, how are you utilizing the extra funds? Are you rolling that into the future years, or do you just have to put this out for the state, as far as getting the funds? I'm just curious how that works.
So this is an iterative process. These are definitely not the actual numbers. This is based on, a hypothetical hire according to our salary schedule, but it could fall. I mean, and this is inclusive of benefits as well. So that includes retirement, health insurance, dental, FICA. But you're right. You're not going to cost $100,000. It's going to be some odd number, either higher or lower. But what we'll do is, because this grant is open for 3 years, once we do get that exact number, we'll be able to adjust accordingly. And that's why Jessica, mentioned at the beginning that these are kind of the concept. I mean, these are what we want to invest in the hires, but they're not exact numbers because there's no way we will know the exact number until, like in this case, we actually make the hire. So.
Do you still get that money though? I mean, does Seabrook still get that money, or do you only get what is officially, for certain things?
So we'll get the funds that we utilize, and then if there's any excess, we'll then utilize that for a different purpose.
Okay.
So maybe we'll and that's part of the plan, and that's the nice thing that it's over a 3-year time period, is that we can adjust accordingly. But it will be our goal to spend every last penny.
So these positions are for, like, the estimates that you have here are for a 3-year position per staff member?
So this is just year 1.
But doesn't this complete list that you have on this paper absorb the full grant?
We have another, so this absorbs the CARES 2 funds, but we know we have another $1.8 million that's in CARES 3.
Okay, I'm like I said, I'm glad that we can do this now, but for the future, this is a huge cost to roll into our budget in the future. And I just really wish that, we took positions out of the budget for this coming year. And now you're asking for 2 educational associates. I just really wish that you kept what you had so that we would have had them this whole time. It's just very confusing when you say, no, we don't need them, but now we need them. Let's not just spend money to spend money. Like, do we need them or don't we need them? We're willing to, give you guys what you needed for that budget and approve that budget. But you said you didn't need them, but now it's kind of contradicting the need.
Yeah, Jessica, I totally understand where you're coming from and that it looks that way. I think it's really hard when you engage in the budget process in September and October, and we didn't fully understand kind of the needs and what systems and structured would best help in terms of this return from COVID. And so I completely understand that looks the way it looks, but I feel like we know more now than when we went through that budget process. And I think we didn't really know how much COVID was going to impact the needs or our programming until we sort of got into January and we realized, yeah, we do need support. And I think teachers would even be able to support the fact that having this extra hand in their classroom this year, we were able to do it, has been hugely beneficial to their work with kids. And so that's why we really want to put those back in.
And I think we made some hard decisions in the budget. I don't know that we said we don't need them. I think we had a couple of opportunities that they weren't filled at the time, and we had to make hard cuts knowing the constraints and the concern of the taxpayers being able to pay their taxes. And we were trying to be cognizant of that and have a budget that made sense. So it wasn't, we don't need them. It was, we need to cut some places, and we tried really hard to just do a good job of making sure that the budget was fair for the taxpayers.
I mean, we had a 4 1/4.
I asked if you guys needed them. I know some of you guys weren't here, but I went to bat for extra aides because they were so needed. At one of our meetings, a few years back, they were so needed in the classrooms, and I went up to bat for those and spoke, to get those. And then, you say you don't need them anymore, but now you're telling me you did need them. You're just trying to make budget, friendly, cuts. But if you needed them, you needed them. Like, we want you guys to be equipped with what you need. So don't cut something just to cut something and give money back. If you need something, don't do that. It just makes no sense. And then you come back and ask for it again.
Yeah, I don't think we're cutting for the sake of cutting. At that point in time, it was a different set of circumstances, and since then it's been 6 months of a pandemic with the effects on students and different needs, so that it's going to change year to year. So, I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, but our needs do change from year to year, unfortunately. Particularly during a pandemic.
That's all I have.
Can I ask a question? So when these funds are no longer available, and you said it was going to be a three-year contract, is that what you're stating?
We have the ability to use these funds over 3 years, yes.
Okay, so once these funds are no longer available and they've been exhausted and we still have these positions available, then it is going to be on the taxpayers.
Yeah, so we're going to have to evaluate it as we move forward, and we'll either have to develop a plan to roll it into the operating budget, or remove the position. but we're looking at a 3-year horizon now for immediate needs in response to COVID with the funding we have available.
So just to clarify again, CARES 2 is just this amount right here is just this first year, correct? Like this
Correct.
just covers the 1 year. And then if you're anticipating the 2 further years, then you're anticipating getting the money from the next CARES Act and then feeding into the budget, if that's how it works. So this $100,000 is just like 1 year salary for, I mean, hypothetically, but this number is just 1 year salary and all the other things rolled into it for that one staff member.
Right.
And then you would you would anticipate adding that second year to the CARES 3 budget then.
Right. So, and we'd evaluate it on an annual basis. Maybe we add one position next year, a second position the third year to roll it into the operating budget. So, you know, we'd have to take a look at it, like where we could potentially include, you know, positions in the budget or not.
Okay.
Just from my experience, I don't see many grant positions that end when the grant years end. They are absorbed in the budget. And so that's just my concern.
And we talked a lot about that as an admin team. But what we really tried to focus on was what the goal of this money is for, which is for COVID recovery. And so thinking about the best way to impact students is to be able to provide interventions early and often to them. And so really wanted to focus a huge chunk of this money on directly impacting students. And so I think, you know, to Matt's point is, as an admin team, we would be evaluating, you know, every step of the way, you know, how much has this impacted kids? You know, has it been enough impact? And do we need to continue with this position, or does it need to, or do we need to kind of shift into something different? Or were we able to meet the capacity at the time within this 3-year period to get what we needed out of these positions for our kiddos, and are we able to kind of move along? So we definitely had that discussion. It wasn't a thought like, hey, we're going to be able to keep all these positions. It was, okay, what can we do to immediately impact kids, and really looking through sort of the best way to do that. And that was through this intervention process.
And ultimately, if the positions become these really important and you know, life-changing positions for a lot of kids, then it seems like something that we need to figure out a way to do no matter what. And if that means switching into the operating budget, I mean, I would just assume that in any situation in the school, if we find something that really is needed, then we do what we can to make that happen ultimately.
Absolutely. And, you know, I can reiterate that when we were looking at this, and this is true for all of our districts, as far as how to allocate what decisions we should have for the fall, it's about, you know, we're coming out of a global health pandemic, and what's the learning loss? Where are kids socially and emotionally, and how can we help them access the curriculum? We've had some kids who have had trouble engaging even in remote learning this entire time. Those are the priorities. And so, you know, I just want to make sure we say, it's said here to the board that, you know, in no way are we trying to put pressure on the board in 3 years to roll these things in. That's certainly not the case. This is not an ask to roll anything into the budget. Certainly, if I had a crystal ball, I would say 2 of these should be a priority to roll into the budget after 3 years. Out of the 2, 4, 6, 8 of them. However, it's certainly something that's needed for recovery now directly for our students over the next year, 2 or 3. So that's where this is coming from, with more staff, more expertise in the building who can work with kids. The district social worker in particular, you know, having a district with over 700 students with only 1 social worker is very understaffed. And, you know, while before people were people have been working really hard and have a lot on their plate before the pandemic. Now it's just not possible for one social worker to take care of all those needs and some legal requirements for all of our students, given what they've been through. So that's something, you know, I would work on to sustain that past the CARES money. But beyond that, there are, you know, things ebb and flow. There's a piece with, you know, the case manager. This is a different time because of more, as Jessica explained, there's more identifications at this time due to, you know, a new staff and during the pandemic when some needs are bubbling up, coming to the surface. And then the interventionists, you know, for reading, math and for the elementary school, these are things that the interventionists can train the trainer essentially. They can be teaching our teachers how to intervene, be working with our EAs on how to intervene. And then, you know, after they've done that good work, perhaps those are the positions after 2 or 3 years that could phase out. I don't know what the proposal will be, but those are, I've seen that happen before where we've worked to make the school sustainable in and of itself and not having to just add more and more and more people. So, but I can't think of a better way for kids to allocate the CARES money.
Aren't these, like, some of these positions, aren't these some positions that we kind of already have through the SAU 21 that we share amongst the districts?
The only positions we share are what's up here and ESOL. We don't share anything else.
Okay.
And the ESOL is not shared by Seabrook because you have your own 2 ESOL teachers.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. If we're going to have all of our own stuff at this point, like, why don't we do a study on separating from the district and do our own thing? Like, we're going to be paying for everything anyways by the looks.
I think that's a great idea.
Are there any other questions I can answer in terms of the staffing? Okay. Last on the list is supplies and materials. Obviously, with the increased professional development that we're going to be providing for staff to ensure that the classroom instruction is where it needs to be, we're going to need to make sure that all teachers have access to curriculum materials. So for literacy, for math, intervention kits to ensure that we're able to provide the appropriate interventions targeted to students' needs, and then having materials for a social emotional learning artist to come in and do some more interactive engagement for social emotional learning with the students. Any questions on the supplies and materials? Okay. So as you can see, we were really thoughtful about where we were going to spend the money. We used a lot of data to sort of support this proposal. And like I said before, we spent it down to the last 85 cents. So again, I'm happy, and I know Erin and Lauren and Mark are happy to answer any questions about this proposal.
Thank you for all the work that you put into this. I think there is a need for quite a bit of what's on this list. I don't mean to sound harsh. I've just been around for a while. So I have a little experience on what's happened in the past and what I can see coming in the future. But I really want to thank you. And it was nice to meet you because I haven't met you yet.
Nice to meet you too, Jessica.
Thank you very much. Jess, I think, oh, sorry, we can't, you're muted.
I believe we're going into non-public at this point
I believe
for,
this requires a vote.
okay. Looking for a nomination for this.
I will make a nomination to accept the CARES ESSER 2 proposal as it was presented.
Is
I'll
there a
second that.
Who did the second? Christina?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
No.
Kelly Huber, did she go?
I believe she, on the chat, she said she had to go.
Okay, Christina Kaiser,
Yes.
vote taken.
All right. Thank you. And all right, so now we're under personnel. I believe we need to go non-public for this, correct?
That's correct. And I sent an invitation to the board to exit this meeting and enter the non-public meeting. So we'll exit that. For those of you who are new, we'll exit this Zoom meeting, go into your email and go into the non-public meeting, and then we'll come back to this Zoom to vote.
Okay, looking for a motion to go into non-public.
I'll make the motion. We go into non-public.
I'll second that.
Great.
A roll call.
Deb, are you with us?
I think she might be.
Sorry, sorry, I was like Forrest
Okay.
Carter.
Yes.
Thank you. Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
Yes.
and Christina Kaiser,
Yes.
vote taken.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Go ahead.
All right, I'll make a motion to resume our regular meeting at 6:53.
I'll second.
Who's at Carter? Forrest?
Yes.
Jennifer.
Sorry. Okay. All right, Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jen Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
Yes.
and Christina Kaiser.
Yes.
Thank you. Vote taken.
All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move to nominations. Sorry. Okay, I don't know how you want to do this. We're under nominations. I'm not sure if you put somebody forward and then.
So there are, sure. So under resume public meeting, number 11, the category 11 in the agenda, there is language if a board member would like to make that motion. Under B and C, there'll have to be two separate votes. I can read it if that would be helpful.
I'm just trying to find it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if is everybody else getting that.
Is it the motion to approve the interim superintendent's nomination of Jessica Joswick for the 7th grade science teacher position for the 21-22 school year?
That's it.
I can make that motion if that would help.
I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote.
Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
No.
Christina Kaiser. Christina?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Vote taken.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve interim superintendent nomination of Joshua Felch for 6th grade math teacher position for 2021-2022 school year.
Second.
Roll call.
Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
Yes.
and Christina Kaiser.
Yes.
Vote taken.
Okay, I have, I'm just gonna go over some next meeting dates now. Number one, we have SAU 21 Joint Board Policy Committee meeting Wednesday, April 14th at 4:30. SAU 21 Operations Committee Tuesday, May 4th at 5:30. Seabrook School Board regular meeting Tuesday, May 11th at 4:30. And SAU Joint Board Tuesday, May 25th at 6 o'clock. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Roll call.
I'm going to assume it's everyone.
Yep.
I'm going to mark it unanimous.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.